So week 2 into this month of the Great Discovery. So last week we said Ernest Holmes said the Great Discovery was mind. And this week we're talking about the power within. We're talking about power because it's ours to use. And I want to talk briefly about the 4 kingdoms of consciousness. We use that in classes a lot, and we describe what it is. And we understand that these are levels of consciousness that are not linear, that we can reside in kind of all of them at the same time on the same subject even. You can go through all of them in 10 minutes, sometimes. They're states of consciousness. And so the first kingdom of consciousness is the victim. This is where things happen to us. We have no power of our own. Our parents did it to us, the boss does it to us, the government does it. It's just, we are at the effect of the world. The world kind of steamrolls over us. We have no power of our own, and everybody around us controls us. Now, in order to move out of that Kingdom 1 consciousness, in order to move out of that state of consciousness that the world is happening to us, into Kingdom 2, when the world starts to happen by us, in order to do that, we need to give up a couple of things. And the things that we have to give up is blame and shame. We have to give up blame and shame in order to move out of the victim consciousness and to take responsibility for our lives. So we have to give up blaming everybody around us for why we are the way we are. So you stop blaming your parents, you stop blaming all the bosses you've ever had that are idiots, you stop blaming your coworkers, you stop blaming your neighbors, you stop blaming all of that, and you start to take responsibility for your own choices in your own life. Now you also give up shame, which is shaming yourself. We shame ourselves a lot for being in the stupid position we're in to begin with, right? How did I get here? What was I thinking? This self-condemnation. So in order to move out of Kingdom 1 consciousness, in order to move out of the victim consciousness, we need to give up 2 things. We need to give up shame and we need to give up blame. Then we start moving into that Kingdom 2 consciousness where things are done by us. Instead of to us, things are done by us. We begin to meditate. We begin to pray affirmatively. We begin to manifest the things that we desire instead of the things we fear are going to happen. We start to take control over our lives. And so this is this Kingdom 2 consciousness, the world done by us. This is the name it and claim it stage. This is when you first learn about affirmative prayer and you begin to use it, and you learn about meditation and you begin to use it, and you begin to hear that still small voice, and it responds to our predominant thoughts on a conscious level. And we start out picturing more things that we desire and less things that we don't want. This is the princes, palaces, and parking places stage of our spiritual consciousness. This is when things start to manifest. We pray, we meditate, things begin to change in our lives for the better. Then something else happens. We start to move from Kingdom 2 consciousness, which is the world being done by us. We're in control, we're in power. And we move into Kingdom 3, where the world starts to happen through us. The world starts to happen through us instead of by us. We become a greater vessel for life to be living through us into the world, into those structures that we have created in our lives. Now, in order to move into this stage 3 consciousness, we need to give up certain things also. And the interesting part about this is that in order to move into that Kingdom 3 consciousness, we have to give up kind of the very things that we acquired when we moved from stage 1 to stage 2. We have to give up control and we have to give up power. Now, it's a different kind of control and power, though. In stage 3, when we're surrendering to this greater power that we know is us, is individualized as us, but greater than we are. The kind of power that we're giving up is the ego's power. The kind of control we're giving up is the ego's control to have everything the way we want it. Because what we know when we're moving into this stage 3 is that there is a greater good than even I am aware of. There is a greater good for my life, and I'm open and available to it. So Spirit can use me to express in the world and express through the things that I have created, the structures around my world. So this is the place where we give up the same power and control we gained by moving into stage 2, but it's the power that It's our authentic power. It's a greater sense of power. I know it sounds weird, but when we're moving into this stage, we're giving up the ego power, we're giving up the ego sense of control of having everything I want my way, and we're giving ourselves over. We're surrendering to even a greater power, a greater source that lives its life through us. So it's the ego's idea of power we give up. So we're no longer defending ourselves. There's nothing to defend against, you see. There's nothing, there. We stop taking everything so personally because it's not about me and mine and my ego and getting it my way. There is a greater good at work here. We become more and more aware that Spirit is expressing itself through us and as us and through the things that we have created in the world. And we come to this place through our spiritual practice, through our dedicated spiritual practice. We get there in the silence, really. When we meditate, we can draw on that strength. When we pray affirmatively, we get to draw on that strength. When we have a daily spiritual practice, it's like we have that anchor that keeps us steady in the midst of the chaos and the storm and the freak out and the craziness that goes on in the world. We can call on that power within us to keep us centered when everything's going to hell around us. And see, that's the interesting thing. That's the paradox, really, of this spiritual path, is that we must surrender in order to be of greater power. Does that make sense? It doesn't really when I say it out loud, but you know what I mean, right? It's in surrendering in order to reside in that greater power that we are. When I was in college, I majored in biomedical research. I took a lot of chemistry. I took a lot of clinical chemistry. I took a lot of organic chemistry. I took biology and microbiology, and I took calculus and advanced calculus and quantitative analysis of calculus equations and microbiology, and God, it goes on and on and on. And one night I had homework, and I had one equation to solve. That was it. That was the homework, one equation. And I worked on it for all night long. I had pages and pages and pages of calculations, 14 pages of calculations, and I was no closer to getting the answer than I was when I started. And I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, I was done. I tore up my notes, and I crumpled the rest of them that I didn't get to tear, and I took the textbook, and I threw it across the room. I was so mad. I was so angry because I was so stupid. I couldn't get it. I was unable to solve this thing. I just lost it, like totally. And in my sense of anger and frustration and failure, I was such an idiot. I shouldn't even be in this major. Why am I so stupid? I was worthless. I was less than worthless. I was stupid. I couldn't get this thing. And I just gave up. Did you ever get to that point? And in tears, and I just let it go. And at some point, in the wee hours of the morning, I fell asleep. Now, here's the interesting part. In my sleep, I had the most lucid dream ever. And in the whiteboard of my imagination, this equation was solved, line for line, right in front of my sleeping eyes. It was solved. And I remember waking up thinking, oh my God, I did it. I love that, right? Oh my God, I did it. And I wrote it down. I wrote it down exactly as it came to me in the dream, and it was perfect, and it was solved, and it was brilliant. And I was like, oh my God, I did it. I didn't do anything. I didn't do a thing. What I did was I took dictation. That's really what happened. It was solved for me. I had totally surrendered. I had totally surrendered it, and it was solved for me. Does that make sense? Has anybody ever had one of those things? Can you relate to that? You've had that, right? And here's the interesting thing. I was an atheist at the time. So that was kind of interesting. I had science. I didn't need God, Please. Anyway, and yet I knew something had happened. Something. In that moment, I knew. I experienced something. That there was intelligence that was greater than mine, which I wouldn't have even thought of back then. An intelligence greater than mine, are you kidding? There was an intelligence greater than mine, and I could access it. And it could access me. and I took dictation. And I opened up to the possibility that there is something greater, that there is some mind, and I'm simply the hardware that it downloads into. Ernest Holmes said this. He said, "Let us define spiritual power as dynamic quality of the invisible essence of life, intelligence, and law, which we call God or first cause. The conscious use of this power comes from the recognition that it actually exists, that it responds to us, and that we can directly contact and definitely use it." That's it. That this power definitely exists, that it definitely is available to us, and that we get to direct it and use it. The power is within us. It is within us, and it is around us, and it is responsive to us. And we develop our ability to use it consciously through our spiritual practice, through meditation, through affirmative prayer, through visioning. We get to hear that still small voice. If you're not still and you're not quiet, you'll never hear it because the world's too noisy. The voice of the world is way too noisy. It's clamoring for attention always. And unless you get still and get quiet, you don't get to hear that still small voice. Truth is, we've been using it all our lives. We've just been not using it consciously. The power within us is the only power that there is. It's the power that runs the universe. It's the power that birthed the universe and continues to outpicture in different ways. It is the only power that there is, and we use it. We use it to co-create our lives. We cannot not use this power and live our lives. It is around us. It is us. It is within us. There's no place we can go to be outside of this power and presence. All we are doing when we come to a teaching like this, when we come to a philosophy like this, all we are doing is becoming aware of its existence. We are becoming aware of the truth of this power, that we have been using it all our lives. And what we do with our visioning and our praying and our meditating is we come into alignment with it. We come into alignment with it, and we start to direct it for specific purposes. Excuse me. Ernest Holmes said this, Love and Law. He said, "You are using a power which is, and you have a right to use it, and it will reach up to your ability to use it. It is limited by our mental concept." Absolutely. While it is a power that makes the planet and everything on it, it makes you and it makes me, when it comes to working in our life individually over our conditions, it can only flow through our consciousness. No other way. So what we want to do is we want to provide a great big consciousness. A great big consciousness. And so that's what our spiritual practice is. It is to grow a consciousness big enough to manifest the kinds of life we know we are here to live. Ernest Holmes thought we should all be happy. We should all be healthy. We should all be self-actualized. We should all be living lives that are filled and fulfilled for all the days that we're here. We should be prosperous. We should be joyous. We should be enthusiastically embracing life and everything that it has to offer. We are more powerful than we realize. The power that is within us is the power that runs the universe, is the same power that set the planets in their orbits, is the power that has collided galaxies and smashed them into oblivion and created new ones. It is the same power. It's no different than the power that is in you right now, that's breathing your breath, beating your heart, circulating your blood, digesting the breakfast you had. All that's going on, and you're not even paying attention to it, right? And it's all going on within you. We have way more power than we give ourselves credit for. Because we feel separated from each other, we feel separated from God, we feel like we're these bodies, we feel like we are these bodies, when these bodies can't even contain the power that we are. That's why it goes out beyond us. We're all interconnected by that power. And we are more powerful than we know. We are more powerful than we know. That reminds me of the story in Matthew 21, where Jesus was walking to town early in the morning looking for breakfast. Do you remember that story? He's walking with his disciples, and he sees a fig tree, and so he's going to go over and have some figs, and the tree has leaves all over it, but it has no figs. And so he dams the fig tree out of anger, I think, or frustration, or hunger, or maybe low blood sugar, who knows, right? And I have it written down here. It says, here it is. Let no fruit grow henceforth and forever. And the tree withers and dies. And it's a great example in the Bible. I like that story because it's a great example of the destructive nature of this power. You don't hear Jesus really doing that much in the Bible. I mean, the overturning of the tables and stuff. But usually the power within him was to heal the sick and the wounded and restore sight and everything. So this was a really great cautionary tale about, oh, geez, you see what he just did? Could you imagine the disciples probably standing there like this, little deers in the headlights, Don't piss him off, whatever you do. It was a great example of the destructive power that we have. We have this power within us, and we can use it constructively, and we can use it destructively, and we must be responsible for it. We must be responsible for it. Because what we think, what we desire, what we resonate in, that predominant thought that Ernest Holmes talks about, that predominant thought manifests. It manifests, whether it's a fear thought or a fabulous thought. It manifests if it's the predominant thing. Be careful of the words we use, remember, because that's the house you build for yourself. Be careful of the things you say. Be careful of those predominant thoughts. Be aware of them, because that is what we wind up experiencing. Ernest Holmes, and I love this, Ernest Holmes says, I do not want, I love this, I do not want, I love into my experience the things I desire. I love that. I do not want, I love into my experience the things I desire. I wrap their expression to me in love so that they come to me harmoniously and with no strain. That's what we do. That's how we pray affirmatively. We love our experiences into being. Ernest Holmes said, we pray what we want, right? Not what we don't want. We put our attention on what we want and not on what we don't want. So it's about loving our life, loving our experiences into manifestation. And here's the interesting part about that. Sometimes it doesn't look like it's supposed to, like we think it should look. And isn't that a little puzzle in our lives? We pray affirmatively, we have a great intention, we have a great manifestation, and it doesn't look anything like we thought it was going to look like. So it's a very interesting thing about taking what comes, come what may. Because we're praying for a job, we're praying for a job, we're praying for a job. We're loving a job into existence. We're loving a job into our manifestation. And then we get it, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. It wasn't gonna be in that company. It was gonna be this company, but it didn't come the way we thought it ought to. Or maybe it doesn't come at all for a while. Maybe it takes too long. Maybe God's late. My daughter she was in college and undergraduate school for a while. She really didn't know what she wanted to do when she got out, but she just kept moving forward. I said, don't worry about it. It'll reveal itself. It'll reveal itself. It'll reveal itself. And finally, she was doing one practicum, and she fell into this writer's studio thing, and she started tutoring English as a second language students. And she loved it. And so now she's in graduate school and getting her teaching credentials and getting her master's in English literature. She's going to be an English teacher. And she loved it, and it came kind of out of the side door. And then she prayed, well, she wants to teach high school English, so that's it. She wants to teach high school English. She won't hear anything other than that. And so when they placed her this fall in student teaching, they put her in a middle school. So it was like, hey, wait a minute. You keep saying that we have to set our intention and pray and manifest. It's the most lovely thing in the world. She loves it. She loves them. And see, this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes we take what comes, come what may. And sometimes it doesn't look like what we thought it was supposed to look like. Sometimes Spirit has a better idea about where to place us while we're on this path. And eventually she might teach high school anyway. I mean, I don't know. Who knows where it's going to lead? We don't know where it's going to lead. But it's all good. It's all good, and it's all God. So as we grow this consciousness, we can see that. When we grow from kingdom 2 to kingdom 3, we can see, oh, I am a vessel. I'm a vessel. Spirit is expressing itself through me, as me in the world. But I am the vessel through which Spirit can do the work it needs to do. We come to a place where we're using this power for the greater good, for the greater good. Pema Chodron has a new book out, and in it she says this: at some point, if you're fortunate, you'll hit a wall of truth and wonder what you've been doing all your life. At that point, you'll feel highly motivated to find out what frees you, what helps you be kinder and more loving and less driven and confused. At that point, you'll actually want to be present. Present as you go through a door. Present as you take a step. Present as you wash your hands or wash a dish. Present to being triggered by something. Present to simmering. Present to the ebb and flow of your emotions and thoughts. Day in and day out, you will notice sooner when you're hooked, and it'll be easier to refrain. If you continue to do this, a kind of shedding happens, a shedding of old habits, a shedding of being run around by pleasure and pain, a shedding of being held hostage to worldly concerns. That's what we're talking about. The power within is the only real true power we have. Controlling and manipulating your surroundings and the things of the physical world is just something we do in the meantime. It's something we do to busy ourselves with while we're developing this inner power. The power within is real. It is universal mind. It is within us. It is us. And we've been using it all our lives. We move through this life, first by awakening to it, then learning to use it, then letting it use us. And then at some point, some of us get to the place where there is no difference between it and us. We move from kingdom 3 to kingdom 4 consciousness, that total at-one-ment. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "You see me, you see the Father." And the thing we give up to move from 3 to 4 is ego and separation. And we're all on our way. We have masters who have shown us the way. And we are all guaranteed to get there eventually. Start today. Thank you.